stop right there. What do you think you're doing on their driveway?
Sir, they asked me to clean it. The driveway is too slippery for them. All right, what's going on here?
Officer, this guy just showed up and started messing with their driveway.
The shouting started from the sidewalk before I even finished the first strip across the driveway. A neighbor from down the street suddenly raised his voice loud enough for half the block to hear. I was convinced that something about what I was doing didn't belong there. From where he stood, it probably looked suspicious. A young guy with a pressure washer spraying someone else's driveway while water and foam ran toward the curb. To him, it didn't look like help. It looked like someone messing with property that wasn't his. What he didn't know yet was the reason I had stopped at that house in the first place. The home belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Samuel and Lillian Carter, an elderly black couple who had lived in that brick house for more than 40 years. Samuel was 87 years old and had spent most of his life working as a city bus mechanic. The kind of job where you spend decades fixing engines before sunrise so the rest of the city can get to work. His hands were still strong, but his knees were not. Years of climbing under buses and lifting heavy parts had taken their toll. Now he walked slowly with a stiff step that made even short distances tiring. His wife Lillian was 84. For nearly 30 years she worked as a nurse's assistant in a local hospital, helping care for patients who could not care for themselves. She was the kind of person who spent her life helping strangers during their hardest days. But time eventually catches everyone. Her back had weakened, her balance had become fragile. And these days she moved carefully, while holding Samuel's arm whenever she walked outside. They never had children. Most of their relatives had moved to other states long ago. Many of the neighbors who once knew them had moved away as the neighborhood slowly changed over the years. These days the house was quiet. Just the two of them, living in the same place where they had built their entire life together. The driveway in front of their home had slowly become dark and slick after years of rain. Dirt and algae building up on the concrete. From a distance, it just looked old, but walking on it was another story. The slope near the sidewalk was dangerously slippery. Samuel had nearly fallen there one morning while trying to wheel the trash bin back toward the garage. And after that day, they both avoided walking down the driveway whenever possible. When someone nearby told me about it, I decided to stop by with my pressure washer and clean the worst section first. Each slow pass across the concrete revealed a lighter strip underneath the grime that had been sitting there for years. Water carried the dirt toward the street while the driveway slowly began to look the way it probably had decades ago. But the neighbor watching from the sidewalk didn't see any of that history. All he saw was a stranger spraying someone else's property. The longer he watched, the more certain he became that something was wrong. His frustration kept building until he pulled out his phone and made a call that turned a quiet act of helping into something much bigger. A few minutes later, a police car rolled slowly into the street and stopped near the curb where the water from the driveway was still running into the gutter. Suddenly, what started as a simple effort to make life safer for two elderly people had turned into a confrontation in the middle of the neighborhood. And all of it began because someone believed the worst before knowing the real story of the couple who had spent their entire lives helping others. So, now I want to ask you something. If you saw someone helping an elderly couple who had no children and no one nearby to help them, would you question it the way that neighbor did? Or would you wait to understand what was really happening? Let me know in the comments and tell me where you're watching.